Analyzing Short Stories by Joan Alvarado and Johan Gallego. The Frog King or Iron Henry, written by Brothers Grimm. The Russian scholarship Vladimir Propp in 1928 published an analysis where he showed a consistency of the structure underlying the variety of motifs and topics of fairy tales. His work became an important point of departure for research into narrative structure after the transition to English in 1968. Propp established a variety of topics that are characterized by something being given to a hero or the story's protagonist. Propp stated that in 31 functions or domains of activity there are always 7 characters that may appear in fairy tales, and these are: first, villain; second, donor; third, helper; fourth, princess of person looked for; fifth, dispatcher; sixth, hero; seventh, false hero. According to Propp, a function is an act did on the part of a character, determined from the vantage point of the meaning of that act for the course of events. A function is actually the act plus the location of that act in the fairy tale. The function can only be determined by looking at the location of the act relative to the entire fairy tale. The functions can be grouped into 4 categories. The first one is preliminaries. Let's go through the fairy tale and we'll show you the example of this first group.
This story is called Frog King or Iron Henry. In olden times, when wishing still helped one, there lived a king whose daughters were all beautiful. But the youngest was so beautiful that the sun itself, which has seen so much, was astonished whenever it shone her face. Close by the king's castle lay a great dark forest, and under an old lime tree in the forest there was a well. And when the day was very warm, the king's child went out into the forest and sat down by the side of the cold mountain. And when she was bored, she took a golden ball and threw it up on high and caught it. And this ball was her favorite plaything. Now it so happened that on one occasion the princess' golden ball did not fall into the little hand which she was holding up for it, but on the ground beyond, and rolled straight into the water. The king's daughter followed it with her eyes, but it vanished, and the well was so deep that the bottom could not be seen. At this she began to cry, and cried louder and louder, and could not be comforted. And as she thus lamented, someone said to her, "What ails you, king's daughter? You weep so that even a stone would show pity." She looked around to the side from whence the voice came, and saw a frog stretching forth its big ugly head from the water. "Oh, old water splasher, it is you," she said. "I'm weeping for my golden ball, which has fallen into the well." "Be quiet, and do not weep," answered the frog. "I can help you, but what will you give me if I bring your plaything up again?" "Whatever you will have, dear frog," she said. "My clothes, my pearls, my jewelry, and even the golden crown which I am wearing." The frog answered, I do not care for your clothes, your pearls, your jewelry, nor for your golden crown. But if you will love me and let me be your companion and playfellow, and sit by your side at your little table, and eat of your little golden plate, and drink out of your little cup, and sleep in your little bed. If you will promise me this, I will go down below and bring you your golden ball up again." "Oh yes," she said, "I promise you all you wish, if you will but bring me my ball back again." But she thought, "How the silly frog does talk! All he does is to sit in the water with the other frogs and croak. He can be no companion to any human being." But the frog, when he had received his promise, put his head into the water, and sank down, and in a short while came swimming up again with the ball in his mouth, and threw it on the grass. The king's daughter was delighted to see her pretty plaything once more, and picked it up and ran away with it. "Wait, wait," said the frog, "take me with you. I can run as you can." But what did it avail him to scream his croak, croak after her, as loudly as he could? She did not listen to him, but ran home and soon forgot the poor frog, who was forced to go back into his well again. The second category is complication, which contains the following functions. Let's see the part of the story which shows this category. The next day, when she had seated herself at table with the king and all the courtiers, and was eating from her little golden plate, something came creeping, splish splash, splish splash, up the marble staircase, and when it had got to the top, it knocked at the door and cried, "Princess, youngest princess, open the door for me." She ran to see who was outside, but when she opened the door, there sat the frog in front of it. Then she slammed the door in great haste, sat down to dinner again, and was quite frightened. The king saw plainly that her heart was beating violently, and said, "My child, what are you afraid of? Is there perchance a giant outside who wants to carry you away?" "Ah, no," replied she. "It's not a giant, but a disgusting frog." "What does a frog want with you?" "Oh, dear father, yesterday, as I was in the forest, sitting by the well, playing, my golden ball fell into the water, and because I cried so, the frog brought it out again for me, and because he so insisted, I promised him he should be my companion, but I never thought he would be able to come out of his water, and now he is outside here, and wants to come in to me." In the meantime, it knocked a second time and cried, "Princess, youngest princess, open the door for me. Do you not know what you said to me yesterday by the cold waters of the well? Princess, youngest princess, open the door for me." Then said the king, "That which you have promised must you perform. Go and let him in." The third category is development. Let's see the part of the story which shows this category. She went and opened the door, and the frog hopped in and followed her, step by step, to her chair. There he sat and cried, "Lift me up beside you." She delayed until at last the king commanded her to do it. Once the frog was on the chair, he wanted to be on the table, and when he was on the table, he said, "Now, push your little golden plate nearer to me, that we might eat together." She did this, but it was easy to see that she did not do it willingly. The frog enjoyed what he ate, but almost every mouthful she took choked her. At length he said, "I have eaten and am satisfied. Now I'm tired. Carry me into your little room and make your little silken bed ready, and we will both lie down and go to sleep." The king's daughter began to cry, for she was afraid of the cold frog, which she did not like to touch, and which was now to sleep in her pretty clean little bed. But the king grew angry and said, "He who helped you when you were in trouble ought not afterwards to be despised by you." So she took hold of the frog with 2 fingers, carried him upstairs, and put him in a corner. But when she was in the bed, he crept to her and said, "I'm tired. I want to sleep as well as you. Lift me up, or I will tell your father." At this she was terribly angry, and took him up and threw him with all her might against the wall. "Now, will you be quiet, odious frog?" she said. But when he fell down, there was no frog, but a king's son with kind and beautiful eyes. He, by her father's will, was now her dear companion and husband. Then he told her how he had been bewitched by a wicked witch, and how no one could have delivered him from the well but herself, and that tomorrow they would go together into his kingdom. Then they went to sleep, and next morning, when the sun awoke them, a carriage came driving up with 8 white horses, which had white ostrich feathers on their heads, and were harnessed with golden chains, and behind stood the young king's servant, Faithful Henry. Faithful Henry has been so unhappy when his master was changed into a frog that he had caused 3 iron bands to be laid around his heart, lest it should burst with grief and sadness. The carriage was conducted to the young king's into his kingdom. Faithful Henry helped them both in, and placed himself behind again, and was full of joy because of his deliverance. And when they had driven a part of the way, the king's son heard a cracking behind him, as if something had broken. So he turned around and cried, "Henry, the carriage is breaking." "No, master, it is not the carriage, it is the band from my heart, which was put there in my great pain when you were a frog and imprisoned in the well." Again and once again, while they were on their way, something cracked, and each time the king's son thought the carriage was breaking, but it was only the bands which were springing from the heart of Faithful Henry, because his master was set free and was happy. The end. The announcement is the end, how the story concludes, and in this story they got married and lived happy ever after.
Now, let us analyze the sociolinguistic aspect, power. Through a short video, we are going to see how language in the tale is used by the king to preserve power and privilege, and how it is possible to control others' action merely by using words.
Acquaintance of a princess so charming and lovely as your daughter.
I must offer an apology for keeping you waiting outside so long. Our young guest is staying for supper. Let us go ahead and set a plate. And be quick about it.
Again, I am most grateful, Your Majesty, for I am quite famished, and unless you have an objection, I request permission to be seated next to the princess.
Only royalty may sit at that table, but you didn't know that, did you?
Excuse me, Your Majesty, while I wish to sound neither bold nor disrespectful, that was the promise the princess had made today.
Well, there is nothing in this kingdom that is worth more than the word of royalty. Make ready the chair next to Princess Leonora.
Father, I would rather die first. There are any other number of seats in the banquet hall that I know you would like equally well.
Yes, but on the other hand, nothing would please me nearly as much as to gaze into your lovely eyes while I eat my meal. What do you say? Please?
Absolutely not.
But you promised me. Doesn't that mean anything?
Darling, that frog is starting to make a nuisance of himself. I want you to put an end to this nonsense immediately.
Absolutely not. Under the circumstances, the frog is within his rights.
What was that?
The royal honor happens to be at risk here. Simply put, in return for a favor, our youngest daughter made a commitment to that pond frog. I merely want her to uphold the promise that she made.
And so it was decided that the Frog Prince would be given his very own chair right next to the Princess Leonora.
All the food looks just as wonderful as it smells. I am quite hungry, and this is a marvelous feast.
There is no need for you to be shy, my boy. There is plenty more where that came from, so please take anything you would like.
You were too kind, Your Majesty. I think I would like to begin with the tasty soup that the princess is having.
In that case, why not take some from my daughter's bowl right in front of you?
By that, do you mean I should eat from the very same bowl as the princess?
Of course, unless that displeases you.
Certainly not. On the contrary, I would consider it a privilege to eat from the royal soup bowl.
That's the spirit, so go ahead. What are you waiting for? I won't be satisfied until your stomach is full, and I know my daughter feels the same way. Leonora, your friend has been most patient.
Yes, by all means, please be my guest.
Thank you, Princess. It certainly looks very good. Actually, I truly am most exceedingly hungry. It's spicy, just like I like it. Excellent. Princess, would you be interested in knowing that I ran all the way to the castle? Well, to be exact, I jumped all the way, and that's why I'm so terribly hungry. Princess, I hope nothing is wrong, but instead of eating, it seems that you're just sitting there staring at me.
I have already had enough. I could not eat another thing.
Oh, I get it now. You were telling a joke. And I must be blocking your way. If I move aside, you will be better able to taste it. Go ahead, Princess, grab a spoon. I do believe you will like it, and the cook should be heartily congratulated. Yum. Now, I can't quite make up my mind. What should we do next, Princess? Either we order another course, sounds tempting, or we have more soup. But I do not wish to be greedy. Whatever you decide is going to make me happy.
What has happened, my friend? Has my daughter offended you?
Not at all, sir. Nothing to be concerned about, Your Majesty. Sorry for the interruption. We just had a bit of an accident while discussing the beef stock.
My dear, I believe I have never seen our daughter look so miserable before. Surely by now she's learned her lesson.
A promise is a promise. The princess had selfishly made an agreement that she did not intend to honor. I cannot accept that.
That power here is being used in relation to the parent to his daughter, probably in order to make her assume the responsibility and behave in accordance to what she says, and in the other hand, to promote on her the respect for others more than trying to embarrass his daughter in